Not appropriate for younger audiences. Your viewer discretion is advised.
None of this shit's appropriate for younger audiences.
That is true.
People get the fuck beaten out of them while showing off their dick size.
If Noah's on the video, it is not appropriate for younger audiences.
If Spider-Man and Elsa videos are appropriate for kids, then I'm appropriate for kids. But then please at the end just cut back to me saying cockcast. Give the little taste. It was a little too inappropriate. This is the only thing we can show you.
Dude,
cockcast.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Smeshcast. What is up? It is Smesh Sunday. We are fresh off the fights. Brian Ortega versus the Korean Zombie happened last night. Brian Ortega getting a unanimous decision win over the Korean Zombie in a dominating performance. Adam, let's let you start off with this one. Let's hear it. What do you think about this fight?
I mean, just crazy that he takes a 2-year layoff, really reinvents himself, and just comes back looking phenomenal. And so Henry Gracie wasn't in his corner because he had COVID.
Yeah.
And in an interview I saw, Henry was like, I'm happy that I'm the one not in his corner because I'm his jiu-jitsu coach. That's what Brian's known for. So like, as long as he can thrive with his, boxing and kickboxing coaches in the match, which he did, then, he'll be fine. And obviously he just put on such performance. Crazy jabs and lead hooks that just kept Korean Zombie on his feet. And the thing that I found super intriguing was he was mixing it up so well that he would just like touch Korean Zombie's lead leg to like threaten a takedown. But he wouldn't commit. And Cormier was saying how like that threat is so important so that, every time he doesn't know, Korean Zombie thinks, oh, it's just a threat, until he wants to actually commit to a takedown. And then like Korean Zombie is just like completely thrown off his feet.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And I don't think it was just that. It also helps him with the striking. I think what really dominated the striking, the reason that Ortega was so dominant is because of the high variance and the high feints that he was really that he had in his output. He wasn't throwing the same shot again and again. In fact, if he threw a shot, you wouldn't see that shot being thrown for another 2 minutes in the fight, but he keeps on throwing shit again and again. He just has different shit he's throwing. And we all know how insane Korean Zombie's boxing counter ability is, right? His counter striking is next level. We saw it against Renato Moicano. Moicano threw one jab. A single jab is all Korean Zombie needed to slip it, counter with the overhand right, knock him out, and finish the fight within about 30 seconds from there. So Ortega knew he couldn't come out with a boxing-based game. So what did he do? If you guys didn't notice, he didn't throw a punch for the first 2 to 3 minutes of that fight at all. He didn't throw a single punch. The whole time he was going kicking game. You can look, if you watched Korean Zombie for the first really 3-4 minutes of the fight, he was just ready, looking to counter. He was walking him down, waiting for Ortega to throw a punch so he could counter it. So Ortega didn't let him do it. He just kicked, kept the distance, did damage from the outside, got the leg, kicked the leg, kicked the body, and didn't let Zombie get the counter game going. And then later, then he could get the boxing going because Zombie had all these other kicks to worry about. And that's why he was able to then get the boxing going without having to worry about the counter striking of Korean Zombie to the same extent as previously.
Yeah, he looks like a completely different fighter than when he fought Max. I mean, just like they're not even comparable.
Yeah, I mean, he just has he didn't have the feinting ability against Max. He didn't have the footwork ability that he has against Max.
Right.
He didn't really have a kicking game to the same extent. He really has evolved, but you have to remember, this is a very, very young fighter. Yeah, he just took 2 years off, but this is not a 30-year-old taking 2 years off in the middle of his career. This is a guy who is at the very, very beginning of his career. We saw him evolving every fight. 2 years off means 2 years to grow, 2 years in the gym, 2 years to grind and develop your skills. Exactly. And that's what he did.
It could have been potentially, though, 2 years to, lose some of your skills, develop some ring rust, and it absolutely was not. I think so, and I think you guys would agree with me that the story of this fight really wasn't Korean Zombie being washed and not being good anymore, as kind of the narrative on social media is whenever a big hype train kind of loses, that they were never that good. The story was Brian Ortega put on a clinic. He was phenomenal.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it was just, that was like his best night ever. That's a championship ready fighter. He's absolutely ready to take on Volkanovski. Don't know how that fight will go exactly. I get the feeling that we haven't seen all of Brian Ortega's tricks that he has up his sleeves. God, just what an overwhelmingly dominant performance. What a
statement.
What a statement.
What a way to come back after 2 years off.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, his cardio is phenomenal. Like he definitely seemed a little slightly gassed, but he was not. Comparing his tiredness in the Max Holloway fight is a little bit different because he was just standing in range, taking shot after shot. But he was still pretty well conditioned in the 4th and the 5th round.
Yeah, he was keeping it up. And again, that's also a function of him fighting at his own pace and really being able to guide the fight. When you're doing that, it's a lot easier because you're deciding when to have output. You're not reacting all the time and fighting at the other guy's pace. But definitely it was helping him. And yeah, I think he was in control. He looked composed, and yeah, Rener Gracie was out, but he didn't need to use his jiu-jitsu. He didn't actually use it once, really. He tried a couple times to lock up the zombie, and actually in the second round, of course, I don't even know how we didn't mention end of the second round, he catches that crazy spinning back elbow. I was with my roommate.
That moment.
Yeah, we
turned it around.
Oh, it was crazy.
Done for zombie.
I mean, it was over, but there were a couple things to mention there. So first of all, it was a very similar elbow to what Yair caught Zombie with. Of course, it was the other side. Zombie was actually moving to his left when he got caught against Yair versus the right against Ortega. But what was really interesting about it was that it was another example of Zombie. When he rushes and when he blitzes in, he overcommits. He goes too far. You saw how far forward he was leaning. His head was almost at Ortega's head, maybe even past Ortega's head. Just like exactly the same thing as what happened with Yair. And in both cases, he got elbowed hard for it. So I think that seems to be something, or Ortega said he was training it. It seems to be something that Zombie does, a bad habit of Zombies that he really hasn't fixed even after all these years. And this might be something that other people can take advantage of. It was really, really smart and really, really, it showed just the development and the skill level of Ortega to be able to take advantage of that. But it might be something to watch out for in a couple of Zombies' future fights.
I mean, I have to imagine that, his coaches, when they, go back over the tape with him, I mean, they're going to point that out because that was, it's not a turning point because, it's not really like the fight was going in Zombie's favor at any point, but it was, the moment when I said, oh God, Ortega's not going to get his comeuppance. There's no such thing as karma. Zombie is over.
Yeah,
basically
right from that elbow.
Well, moving into the future, Ortega, now we know, Dana has in fact confirmed this was built up as a number one contenders fight, and it looks like it was in fact a number one contenders bout, meaning Ortega will fight the champion Alexander Volkanovski for the featherweight championship at some point in the near-ish future. Hopefully, I would say probably, I don't know, March, whenever they're ready, right? February, I'd say, is probably the earliest, but we'll see. I think that's a fantastic fight. I think the really, really interesting thing about this fight is that we still don't know Ortega that much. We've seen this development. We've seen amazing striking, but we don't know how he's developed. Other than that, we don't know how he's going to fight against other types of opponents other than the Zombie. And I think that really actually works into Ortega's favor against Volkanovski. The City Kickboxing team is legendary for their ability to game plan and strategize for their opponents. If you look at the way that they fought everyone else, they know people's weaknesses, they know people's tendencies, they know their strength, they know how to avoid the strengths and play into the opponent's weaknesses. So
Hey Rowie, if I could just interrupt you. Other than the big, obvious Adesanya, what other prominent fighters are
other fighters? So obviously Alexander Volkanovski, as obviously. We have Dan Hangman Hooker. We have Brad Quake Riddell. We have Kai Kara France. So a bunch of really top level fighters fight out of the City Kickboxing gym. And all of them excel in their feints. All of them excel, as I mentioned earlier, in their game plan. And so having a guy like Brian Ortega, who, yeah, there's a lot of film on him, but that film is old film, and that's of old Brian Ortega. They can't properly train or game plan for Brian Ortega. They only have 5 rounds of footage, and that 5 rounds of footage was against one specific game plan, one specific fighter with one specific set of skills. They don't know how he's going to react to everything that they put forth. So I think that really plays into Ortega's advantage. And one last thing, I know I've been going on for a little bit here. One last thing is that Ortega's team is also quite good at game planning, and there is a ton of footage on Volkanovski against a ton of different opponents, so that will, in fact, work into Ortega's advantage.
If you want my prediction, I think that Ortega is going to take the title. I do think that he is capable of doing that. I think like I said earlier, and as you kind of reiterated here, it really does seem like he has a whole bunch of tricks up his sleeve that we don't know yet. Like he was not able to showcase everything that he has. I have to imagine that in his, preparation, while he specifically prepares for Zombie now, in his general preparation over the last, probably year or so, when he's got a goal for where he wants to be a year or two from then, he's preparing for Volkanovski. He's preparing to fight for the championship, as any good fighter who wants to fight the championship should. Outside of your specific fight camp, you've at least at a certain level have it in your head, I'm looking to fight this person, even if it's just a subconscious thought. So, he's been, in reality, preparing for Volkanovski for a long time. And, I think that considering how close the fight with Holloway was, and, Brian Ortega also, I'm referring to I'm referring to Volkanovski, Holloway. I realized that could have been confusing. Considering how close that was, I really think that Brian Ortega, with his newfound ability, I think that he really stands a strong chance, especially if we can see what kind of how improved he is on the ground from an already phenomenal, guy with a phenomenal ground game. We don't know exactly how much better he is now, and if his striking is anything to go by, could be leaps and bounds better. So you package that up really nicely, and I think that he stands a very, very good chance. I would be willing to bet on Ortega here as a solid chance of winning.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah, I think he has a solid chance. It's just, I think this is another case of we just don't know. And that's just what feeds into the intrigue of the fight. We just don't know who Ortega really is yet. We don't know where he's at. And it's going to really be interesting to find out who he is against someone who we know is top level in Alexander the Great Volkanovski.
But Volkanovski, he can get knocked down from good striking.
He can get knocked down. He can also knock guys out. He's knocked out Frankie Edgar, bro.
Absolutely. But who the fuck knocks out Ortega?
Exactly. Ortega has a crazy chin. That's true.
It's a good, compelling fight.
Okay, so moving on. I guess we can quickly mention there was some good respect shown after the fight from the Zombie and from Ortega. They moved past their old beef. The Zombie had that little fake slap and he laughed it off, and I think they're on good terms now. And Ortega as well, by the way, did not try to start any beef with Volkanovski. He said he likes the guy. He spoke to the guy. Let's not start any beef. He thinks he's a good guy. He's a good champion, and he's excited to share the octagon with him. So I'm excited to see that fight. Moving on to another lightweight class fight that might have some serious title implications. We had Jessica Andrade with a statement debut against Caitlin blonde fighter Chookagian, which again, I digress a little bit, but I hate that name, blonde fighter. It's such a boring fighter name, but it's come on.
I don't mind.
Wait, who's Caitlin Chookagian again? Oh, she's the blonde fighter.
It reminds me of an old Western movie, like The Blonde Avenger, The Masked Bandit. It gives me a little vibe like that.
Fine. If she said the blonde something, great. But blonde fighter, everyone's a fighter in there.
It's not the
blonde
best,
assassin,
but I don't hate it. There's much worse names out there.
There is worse. There's definitely worse. But come on. I was even thinking, like, you know how like everyone says the 115 division is fucking loaded up and the 125, 135 is very top heavy. I would actually say the same thing goes, except for the fighter names there. The 115 division, we have Thug Rose. We had Jessica the pile driver Andrade. We've got who else we have? The bookie woman. We've got all these awesome names in 115. And even if you go to the top 125, the top 135, the Lioness Nunes or Bullet Shevchenko, that's badass. And then you go to the other 125, and you got Blonde Fighter, you got the Cookie Monster, you got what else?
The Cookie Monster's not too
right.
Good.
The Happy Warrior,
like
the Happy Warrior is not
the
bad.
Happy Warrior. I like because I mean that sounds horrifying. That sounds like something like out of like a Game of Thrones book or some shit. Like this guy just murders people and he never stops smiling.
That's true. That's true.
I like that one.
I mean, you wouldn't think it, but I think the quality of the name is also a little bit indicative of the quality of the fighters in those divisions too. But moving on, Jessica, the pile driver with the badass woman with a badass name, scores a vicious body shot KO over the slightly less badass woman with a way less badass name in Caitlin Chookagian.
You can't get over. You got to get over the name.
I gotta get over it. But yeah, I mean, she showed her that her name wasn't very good. Scored those huge gut punches. First, Chookagian had her against the fence, and she actually countered with a right hook to the body. Chookagian bent over, yelled aloud, turned away, ran to the other end of the octagon. You don't see a reaction that big. Tried to fight back, and then Andrade went for another big body shot, and Chookagian folded like a suitcase. It was vicious.
Yeah.
I am, to be honest, going into this, I thought Andrade didn't have much of a shot. And the reason why is because Andrade, she really doesn't have a lot of technique. She's progressed a lot from that first Rose fight where she won the belt, but she still is not a very technical fighter. She relies a lot on her strength and her power. And I just didn't think that strength and power was going to translate going up in weight class. But it did. She out-muscled, she out-strength, she outworked, she just out-powered and pile-drived Chookagian, and that's what got her the win. And I think it'll be fun to watch her against I'm getting ahead of myself. You guys go ahead first. What do you think of this win before we get into her against Shevchenko?
I just love a good gut punch KO.
That's all.
That's all I've got. That's my favorite way to finish a fight. It's brain damage is bad. I mean, don't get me wrong. Brain damage is like pretty bad. But I bet getting punched in the stomach until you get knocked out hurts more.
It does hurt more, yeah.
So, God, just makes me feel bad. I mean, bad for them, good for me and like my eyes. But that was another dominant performance. It seems like that was I've sort of lost my train of thought there, but I was extremely, I'm going to explain to the audience, I was extraordinarily drunk last night during the fight. So I was sort of just ducking in and out. So I was just really excited when I saw the gut shot knockout. That made me very, very happy last night. Yeah. So take it away, Adam.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was actually like stopped slightly early initially because I didn't see the second gut shot. So I was like, oh, maybe she could have fought it out and then had a lot of time, like have used the full minute to recover and, come back a little bit more refreshed. But then during the replay, I saw the second shot and I was like, okay, there wasn't much coming back after that.
Dude, I if I took one Jessica Andrade gut shot, I wouldn't walk for a week, dude. Oh my God. I'd be puking my guts out. So it looks like, I don't think we got a Dana White post-fight interview. So we haven't heard what Dana White thinks about this, but we've been talking about her potentially being our next 125-pound title challenger. So she might fight Valentina the Bullet Shevchenko, someone who can rival her not only in strength, not only in technique, not only in power, but also in name quality. So, I think that At the end of the day, I think Valentina is too big for Andrade. I think she has the strength to compete with Andrade, as I was just saying. In all honesty, with no jokes here, I think she's just as strong as Andrade. I think she's way more technical. Technique beats power. Technique and precision, as we saw with Adesanya against Costa. It'll be that kind of a fight. I think she'll do what Rose did to I think she'll do what Rose did to Andrade, except she has longer range and she has more power. So she's going to knock her out. I think this is not going to be a close fight. As good as Andrade is, she's not Shevchenko.
Yeah, I kind of feel that the UFC is sort of, I'm not saying taking advantage of her name, but definitely using it to their power to sort of add a little bit of light into the 125-pound division, because she will probably be the biggest name that Valentina's faced besides Joanna. So I mean, I don't think it'll be a super competitive fight, but it'll probably be a little bit more well watched than some of the others.
Can I just say, actually, you just brought up a really good point. I didn't think about it. Joanna's faced Andrade, and we saw what Joanna did to Andrade. She pieced her up. She did what Rose did, but kind of similarly. And if I'm being honest, Valentina is very similar to, well, not very similar. She's the same skill set that Joanna does, but she's bigger, she's stronger, and she's a little bit more advanced in that skill set. So I think that she'll just do exactly what Joanna did to Andrade, but just to a higher degree. I think that in general, we might actually see a bit of a trend of some 115ers moving up to 125. That would be really interesting to see, just because that 115-pound division is so competitive. It's so close. There's so many top contenders, and it's so hard to get a title shot at 115. I think we might start seeing a trend of people moving up to 125 and girls getting title shots, because it's just so empty there, and they can get some success against some mid-level fighters and get a shot against Valentina. And of course, because they built that name at 115, it'll sell a lot more than these, the Jennifer Mayas of the world. No offense to Jennifer Maya, but I don't think anybody, even in the hardcore scene, will barely know her.
I don't think she's watching, so it's okay.
That's a good point.
Do you have any names you think should step up and maybe try their hand at the higher weight class?
I mean, you want to say Joanna is a perfect example of that, but Valentina has already taken care of Joanna too many times, and that is just not going to happen. She's not going to get another title shot. So, but otherwise, Joanna would be the perfect candidate. Who else has a tough time?
I'd like to see Tatiana Suarez, maybe.
I mean, but we haven't seen her at 115 yet. The reason she's out is not because she can't cut weight, is because her neck is fucked up. So I want to see if she has a title fight and loses, then I would see her maybe moving up to 125 and trying her hand there. But let's see her. She hasn't lost at 115.
Yeah, she said.
Okay, let's move on. I think we've discussed the 125 division enough. Let's move up to the 205-pound men's division. Jimmy Crute scoring a fantastic knockout over Modestas Bukauskas. He countered the leg kick with a hard overhand right, knocked him down, hit him again with a left hook, flattened him, and as soon as he finished, he jumped over he sat down beside Modestas, put his arm around him for a second, as Noah returns to the sneeze cast.
Allergy cast.
Put his arm around him. And then he jumped over the fence, went over, shook Dana White's hand, had a word with him. I'm sure he won one of those 50K bonuses, putting on a fantastic performance, and then calling out, who was it? The Russian guy that fought our Johnny Walker.
The one Russian guy.
The guy that fought Johnny Walker. Thank you. Oh my!
I do not recall.
Oh my god!
Right? You know exactly what I'm talking about.
Surkov? Misha?
No, not Misha Serkinov. Nikita Krylov. He calls out Nikita Krylov. Nikita Krylov's been on a big win streak. I don't think he's fought since Johnny Walker, has he? He might have. No, he hasn't. Sure. Okay, so I think he called out Nikita Krylov. I think that's a great person to call out. It's a big call out, but it's a good name to call out. Nikita's another big prospect. These guys are both edging on the top 15 division. I'm not sure how the rankings work exactly right now. I think that's a good fight to make. and it's an explosive fight. Jimmy Crute has some big power. He only has that one loss. It was in the UFC. He was a big touted prospect before he took that loss, and that loss seems to have done him well. He's turned around, got this great knockout, and I think he has a decent future ahead of him. Not sure if he's necessarily a title contender in the future, but he's definitely a top 15 guy.
I'm gonna say that if Jan, as I highly respect Jan, obviously, extremely skilled fighter, but the fact that he was able to beat Reyes for the title, I think that shows that anyone in that division is capable of getting that belt.
I disagree. I mean, I think it's always true to some degree, but I don't think that Jimmy Crute stands any chance against Jan any day of the week. I'm sorry. I don't think it's competitive.
What about Thursday?
Is the difference? No, not Thursday. Wednesday night, potentially. Wednesday night, if they put on one of those shows, I think you never know. But Thursday's out of the question.
A Wednesday night is a Polishman's worst nightmare.
Exactly. Everybody.
That's what they always say about.
That's what they always say. Well, I don't know if you guys noticed though that when Jimmy Crute walked over, went and gave Dana that handshake, who was sitting beside Dana? None other than everybody's biggest hype train, Khamzat Chimaev. So Khamzat was sitting beside Dana. He seems to be getting the Conor McGregor treatment, whiskey out back. I don't know if he drinks whiskey, but those little private sit-alones, just the two of them, one-on-one, good chats, good conversation, and I'm sure good money to go with it.
Well, I bet Dana loves the idea of having somebody who has the potential to be as dominant as Khabib, but as brash and arrogant as Conor.
Yep,
it's perfect star quality.
And we all know he's really trying to sell. He doesn't need to sell to the American market. If he knows if someone wins, they'll sell to the American market. People like Chimaev, people like Khabib. But he wants to get into that Arab market. He wants someone to take over for Khabib because Khabib doesn't have very many years left, as we're going to talk about in a little bit. And so it makes sense for him to want to really push this guy who comes out of the similar part of the world and can take over for the big Islamic crowd that we've been seeing, the Muslim crowd. And so I it's not so surprising to me that he is pushing him, especially when he's being as dominant as he has, and he's gotten so many eyeballs on him. I think he really has big star potential, and Dana's taking advantage of it.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, good for him. I guess let Dana take you for a ride and try and build up some savings.
We got two more fights that we want to just quickly mention. Don't want to talk too much about them, but Matthews Gamrot took on Guram Kutateladze, who is, as we mentioned, Chimaev's teammate. So Kutateladze was actually a 3-1 underdog in this fight. Matthews Gamrot was a big favorite. Both these guys, now remember, this is the lightweight division. This is the top division that in my opinion, has ever existed in MMA. And these guys, I think, are borderline top 15 fighters. Both these guys are making their debut. They were headlining the prelims for a reason. It was a super competitive fight. Both these guys got takedowns. Both these guys were dangerous at different parts of the fight. Kutateladze had a very active guard every time he got taken down. He had some of the best leg flexibility in terms of rubber guard I have ever seen. It was crazy how easily he was able to get his leg up to his head in that bottom triangle, or set up the triangle. They both had really good counter striking. They both had great footwork. They both had really just good straight fundamentals. These guys are high level. And I think these guys both have potential to do something in this lightweight division. It was a split decision win. I think that Kutateladze did deserve the win, and he actually disagreed with me. He said he doesn't think he deserved it because he got taken down too many times, which was very surprising to me. But fantastic fight. I want to see what these guys had to offer in the future. I don't know if you guys have anything to add. If you guys saw this fight, it was really hype in my opinion.
I saw it. I don't remember it. That would be as a result of my, previous comments about last night's mental state, physical state. Yes. A lot of Kraken last night. Shout out to Kraken. Let's get that Kraken sponsorship.
All right. Well, we did one fight that Adam, you mentioned that you wanted to talk about was the Park Jin-young fight against John Phillips. John Phillips being Khamzat Chimaev, also has tied Khamzat Chimaev. He was Khamzat Chimaev's first victim in the UFC. And I mean it when I say victim, though actually I would argue he put up the best fight out of anybody that has ever fought Khamzat in the UFC. He got 2 whole strikes off against Khamzat, which is the most anyone's gotten, which is pretty impressive in my opinion. I couldn't get 2 strikes off. So yeah, John Phillips, he got handled by Park Jung-young. Park Jung-young. He got hit the most times out of anybody in the history of a middleweight 3-round fight.
That's insane. How do you
even
most ground strikes? How many punches can
I think it was the most ground strikes.
Most ground strikes. It's the most ground strikes. I apologize. Go ahead, Noah.
How aren't these guys dead? How do you get punched over 100 times?
Dude, it was like 260, I think. It was something right around 260.
If I get punched like 12 times, I feel like I'm going to turn to mush. How are these guys sustaining that kind of damage? Blows my mind.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I was really uncompetitive. If I'm being honest, I don't think that John Phillips will be in the UFC anymore. I think he has 0 ground game. The ease at which Park was able to take him down was just embarrassing. He had no ability to get up. He barely tried, and when he did try, it wasn't even close. It wasn't a competitive fight. It wasn't an entertaining fight. It was a little bit embarrassing, and I don't think John Phillips is going to fight again in the UFC, if I'm being honest, as horrible and as harsh as that might sound.
I specifically remember one. Oh, sorry, Adam, you go right ahead.
Just gonna say I didn't catch it live, but I sent you guys that tweet that was like, Khamzat in the back warming up with him, and it was like a little nice moment, maybe showing him some technique, but it did not pay dividends at all.
Not at all.
Nope. Might have hurt his ego a little bit.
Oh,
I think at one point I remember looking at the screen and it looked like Park Jun-young's fucking just using his arm like a pendulum. He was just hitting like front of his head, hammer fist back, but just like going between like hitting the front of his head and hitting the side of his head, just swinging his arm. No one stopping him. Didn't look like it was doing any damage, but he was just sitting there, just pendulum swinging his arms, just because no one's gonna stop.
No, I'm gonna be a dick here. I'm gonna call you out. You just spoke out of both sides of your mouth there. First time Noah speaks, man, I don't know how you take more than 100 blows and not turn to mush. I'd be dead. Next one, man, I don't think he was really causing any damage with those strikes. He was just kind of going back and forth, wasting the time.
Those strikes. There were several other strikes.
There were actually 250 other strikes. So I suppose that there's a bit of an argument to be had there.
I don't know why you're putting me on blast here. I don't think I said anything that too strongly out of turn. For about 10 seconds when I watched, the strikes just looked like they were just meandering.
All right, I just think that you're being a little bit hypocritical, but I guess I'll let it slide next time. I think that you
don't understand the words that are coming out of my mouth, fuckhead. Don't you ever challenge me again?
No, we all love you here. I'll challenging makes for good podcasting. So, and everyone knows that the more riled up you get Noah, the more entertainment value you get out of him.
You just take years off of my life for entertainment of 40 to 90 people.
Dude, the boys that you watched last night are taking years off their life for your entertainment. The least we can do is provide them the same thing.
Mm-hmm. With our large fan base of UFC fighters.
It's almost as big as the UFC fan base. It's like within like 100 million, I'd say.
Mm.
All right, boys, I think it's time to move on to the news. So to start off on the news, we have a bit of UFC 254 news to talk about. We have a couple people who were taken off the card, very unfortunately. So as we mentioned last week, first of all, Islam Makhachev lost his opponent in Rafael dos Anjos. And fortunately, that does not look like they'll be able to replace RDA. And so Islam Makhachev will not be fighting on this card. That's a big loss, in my opinion. It might not be a big loss for the casual fans, but I think that Islam is a really, really big, highly touted prospect. One thing I will actually mention that I was thinking about, I didn't mention to you guys, I was just thinking. So we know that Islam is kind of who Khabib envisions taking over for him. And in fact, I actually believe that Islam is part of the reason that Khabib is actually looking to retire. He knows he wants to give Islam a shot, and he doesn't want Islam to have to wait in line for him to retire and not be able to fight anybody. So it actually might be in our favor as fans for Islam to not fight. Because the more Islam fights, the higher ranked guys he fights, the more he has a title shot implications, and the more pressure there is on Khabib to retire,
right.
give Islam that shot. So if we have Islam either not fight, or even better for us, if Islam loses a couple fights and doesn't deserve a title fight, and there's no pressure on Khabib to give up the belt to give Islam a shot because Islam doesn't deserve a shot. So that almost seems like the best case scenario for us as fans. If we want to see more Khabib fights, is for Islam to either not fight, as we see right now, or to lose fights.
I don't know if I would necessarily. I mean, yeah, fans want to see more Khabib fights, but I mean, I'm personally, I just want to see the best guys fight. If there's someone out there who can take that belt, then I want them to do it, and I want them to retire Khabib, because I want to see the best guys go for it. That's why I am disappointed that like Tony isn't fighting Khabib. You know, it's extremely disappointing. It's a great style matchup, but I wasn't as torn up as other people, because at the end of the day, there's a guy out there that could beat Tony, who can also fight for the championship, and that means that, you know, Tony's not the best guy to take on Khabib.
But there's two things. No, there's two things. Okay, the biggest thing I'll say is that styles make fights. And so I don't think you can say that Tony is not the best guy to take on Khabib because Gaethje beat him, because I would actually argue that, hey, Conor could potentially beat Tony because Conor can knock him out in the first round. But Tony is actually, I would still say, a better matchup for Khabib than Conor is. So styles make fights. And I think the thing is with the Tony one is that it had so much hype behind it. It had so much storyline behind it. It had so much drama. That's what made it so much. And the type of fighter they were was so exciting, because we were okay with Tony getting taken down, because it was really fun to see what can Tony do off his back against Khabib. And with Gaethje, it's, wow, maybe Gaethje can not let Khabib take him down. It's a different question. It's a different type of excitement. It's a different thing that we're looking for, which we'll talk about. That's the first thing I'll disagree with you on. The second one is that, I want to see the best guys fight. But in my opinion, Khabib is the best. And until we see him lose, he is the best. And so if we see Islam not fight, so if we see Islam start winning and then retire Khabib for that reason, we don't see potentially the best fight, or we don't know who the best is because Khabib isn't fighting.
Well, I want to not fight Khabib. I feel like I'm missing a piece of the puzzle here. Yeah. Why won't they fight?
Because they're teammates. They're brothers, dude. Islam is like one of his longest serving teammates. They've been teammates for like more than a decade. Okay, they grew up together. They're not going to fight. It's like Cain Velasquez and DC. That's why, again, Khabib is saying he wants to retire so that Makhachev can take the belt. So I'm saying,
well, then Khabib, get out of the fucking way then. So let Makhachev. Okay, you know what? With this whole piece of the puzzle together, I hard disagree with you.
Okay.
On fucking let the Khabib get the fuck out of the way then. I don't know. If the guy deserves the title shot, then
he doesn't yet. He doesn't yet. He's not there yet.
Yeah, I think he's anticipating Islam.
If he gets there, and then if he gets there, and the only obstacle is that Khabib hasn't retired, then I don't know. I'm calling some bullshit on the whole situation.
No, Noah. Okay, let's say right now, Justin Gaethje deserves a title shot. So does Islam Makhachev. Let's just say that happens. What would you rather see? Islam Makhachev against Justin Gaethje, or Khabib against Justin Gaethje?
Right, if they both deserve the title shot. I mean, you can't just say I need to have context. I need to have context of how Islam's, of what kind of a tear he's on.
No one's on Khabib tear. No one's on a Khabib tear, dude.
I know, but it was somebody, if somebody were to be, then like I'm not necessarily saying that I'd rather see a Khabib fight over anyone in the world, because that's not true.
Okay, valid.
I think Khabib is still like anticipating Islam to grow a little bit over the next, year and a bit before he, steadily plans his retirement. Islam can still work up to the ranks, and then there's a bigger fight for him.
I just don't like the idea of like a fighter potentially holding themselves back for this reason, because like just their body's on top. So I'll just
he's not holding back. He's not holding back at all. But I'm saying, if anything, Khabib would be holding back. Khabib would be doing the ultimate holding back, retiring. Regardless, I mean, we'll see.
Whole situation seems. I don't like that situation.
Let's see what happens. We'll see what happens with Islam. How many fights he has, who he fights against, how fast that happens, and if he wins them, of course. And if that situation even comes up, for all we know, Khabib might leave the division and fight GSP at a catch weight. So we'll see what happens.
I don't think that's gonna happen.
I don't know if that's gonna happen. We'll discuss that.
We'll discuss that when we get there. I'm still praying that's gonna happen.
GSP's not gonna cut the weight for it. He's never fought that light.
We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that soon. Let's finish off the news first before we get too far into UFC 254. Umar Nurmagomedov, though, on the 254 conversation is also going to be off. Umar, unfortunately, is in the hospital for some reason.
He's sick with something.
It's not.
I don't know what.
Well, we don't know if he's sick. We don't know if he's injured. We don't know what's going on. All we know is he's hospitalized. So we hope for recovery from him. It's unfortunate we won't see him fight, but first and foremost, we wish him a full recovery. But in other fight news and some hype fight news, Conor McGregor, Dustin Porier appears to be on. And interestingly, according to a tweet by John Kavanagh, it might be on at 170. So that's an interesting twist. I don't know why they'd be fighting at 170. I think if you want this to really be Conor's argument for a title shot at 155, you got to fight at 155. I don't care that you're fighting against a guy who is top ranked at 55. Fight him at the weight that you are supposed to fight for the championship, or at least 156, whatever. But that seems to be on for January 26th, I believe. Contracts are yet to be signed. Hopefully they pay Poirier because he deserves to be paid. And I am excited to see this fight. I'm surprised it's happening. Are you guys surprised this is happening? Are you surprised Poirier is the guy he's coming back against?
No, not entirely.
Yeah, not entirely. I think it made sense, and it's like the perfect opponent, a balance between somebody that's a big name, somebody that's super competitive, and somebody that will give him a title shot. Like, that's actually well deserved. So
I agree with all those things, and that's almost why I'm surprised about it, because it makes too much sense, because Poirier really is that really top level dude, and everyone, even Khabib, says if you want a title shot, if you beat Poirier, you deserve a title shot. Khabib says it. Everyone says it. So Dustin Poirier and he's at the top of his game right now. I didn't expect Conor to go ahead and give himself what really is the toughest matchup you can make for him. If you took all the matchups at 155 that are reasonable, I don't think there's a tougher matchup for him, because Gaethje and Khabib are booked up.
Yeah. Do you think that's really that strange, given, just how dominant he was against Cowboy? I don't think Conor wants another.
Yes, he does. He was talking about Diego Sanchez. He was talking about Nate Diaz. He was talking about everybody. Okay?
Conor says a lot of things, but at the end of the day, this is the man that he made the fight with. He could have made a fight with whoever the fuck he wants, because he's Conor McGregor.
He could.
At the end of the day, he says a lot. He says a lot of things, but this is the fight that makes sense. This is the fight that actually challenges him a little bit. At the end of the day, he knows, he could fight Diego Sanchez, and I'm sure he damn well wants to, because of just the legend factor there. But more than anything, he wants that shot at the title again. And also, at welterweight, he's definitely going to get a title shot if he wins for lightweight.
What also adds value is he already smoked Dustin once. It's probably in his mind thinking, let me just smoke him again. Obviously, it'll be a much more competitive fight, and even his coach, John Kavanagh, said that, Dustin's improved so much, but, that also holds value to why they would fight now.
I disagree completely. I think it's the opposite in that case. When you already have a guy on your resume that you knocked out in the first round, who's a name like Dustin Poirier, that knockout has aged so well for him, and you can't beat that knockout. You can't beat a first round knockout. You can only repeat it. And so
I don't know.
He can't beat him the second time than he did the first time, and he already has that name. It's better for your resume to do it the second time, to do it against someone else.
Who else is there that gives him a title shot?
But both fighters are much more accomplished and improved, and have a much bigger name than when they first fought initially.
Yes, but I just think he could have picked easier fights for himself. And again, I'm very happy he did. I'm just surprised he went and actually gave himself what I consider the toughest challenge and honestly the most appropriate fight for the division. I absolutely agree. I'm just surprised he went and actually gave himself such a tough challenge. And I'm impressed. And I think what that actually shows is that he is in the right mindset, because you don't take a Dustin Poirier fight unless you're ready to fight. You can tell this guy actually does.
It could be the opposite. He could have a very poor mindset and just think, I got him last time. I'll get him again this time. He can get real drunk and he could. I mean, listen, I'm just saying that you could have a real shitty mindset and want to fight Poirier. Like you could be drunk in a bar and say, I'll beat that guy up.
I don't think so. I think he has. This actually shows he's in on it. When you listen to the way Kavanaugh has been talking, when you look at everything else, he's yes. It is a situation where you could interpret it that way. This is not that situation.
I don't think you see the little joke that I just made.
Oh, okay.
Not a point.
I did not hear it, I guess.
You got your blinders on. You're just ready for this fight.
Anyway, I am very ready for this fight. So yeah, that's a good one. They've been talking about it maybe being at Cowboy Stadium. Dana White said, I will not go to any stadium unless we can fill it to full capacity, which tells me I don't think that they will have it, and I don't think they should have it. Absolutely. Yeah. So at Cowboy Stadium, we'll see what happens there.
You hear Dana's one of the little things he said when he was getting his little press interview was very specific. I'm waiting for the results of the election before deciding like what I want to do next. He's really, I interpreted it as him saying, I'm really hoping that one party wins the election so that they lift the restrictions and we can start doing shows in stadiums again.
I mean, no, he's not hiding that. Like that's pretty obvious. I know. He literally spoke at the Republican National Convention.
It's a funny little little Dana White moment.
Yeah, I'm not surprised, and it makes sense. That's probably a big reason why he's so in support of Trump, because it is good for his business.
Most billionaires are.
In addition, in terms of that Conor discussion, the reason that it was booked for January is because it looks like the November and December pay-per-view cards are set at the very least in their headliners. So the December pay-per-view card will be headlined officially by Amanda Nunes. And they are planning a co-main event of Petr Yan or whatever you want to say against Aljamain Sterling. Finally, I'm so excited for this fight. Aljo finally gets that title shot he's long deserved. Finally getting that respect after that Marlon loss. And I'm really excited for that fight. I don't know who I actually see winning that fight. I think it's a really interesting striker versus grappler matchup. And I think that's how it's going to play out. But I'm happy it's happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm glad to see they finally, actually have this fight. Yeah.
Yeah, and then lastly in the news, I know it's a pretty light news week to be completely honest, because we have such a big card to talk about next week. But lastly in the news, we have the Ultimate Fighter which is finally scheduled to begin filming this November as soon as they return from Fight Island. Dana said they do not have any coaches for it. In the past, they've actually done last-second coaches. They have done. He said that they've gotten coaches in the last couple days before the event, so he's not worried. They'll figure something out. He wants to see what happens this weekend before he makes a decision. And what that tells me is that people that are on his mind are Khabib and perhaps an Izzy versus Cannonier, or an Izzy versus Jones, or an Izzy versus Rovert Whittaker season of The Ultimate Fighter. I think that all of those are on the table right now.
Mm-hmm. I think Izzy's, the smart bet would be at least one of them is going to be Izzy, because they want him on camera as often as possible. Mm-hmm. They want him. He is just a walking soundbite. And then, I mean, obviously, I think that everyone could agree the most compelling opponent or alternate coach would be John Jones. Just have them both on TV together.
Oh.
Yeah. As trainers,
that's good TV.
You couldn't ask for two more effective trainers. I mean, like, God, which team would you rather be on? Team Adesanya or Team Jones?
I'm actually curious if Jones would be a good coach or a good teammate. We know that Izzy's a great teammate. I actually don't know if Jones is a good teammate.
I feel like
Jones coached it before though.
Has he?
Against Chael Sonnen, I think.
Oh yes, yeah, that's true. That's true.
I think that Jones would be would make a good coach. You know, he seems like when he wants to be, he can be a good sport. You know, you remember that video with him getting beaten in that grappling competition by the 9-year-old girl?
Oh, yeah. When he wants to be a good sport.
But it would lead to a lot of fun trash talk. It would be very beautiful. Good. That would be the best TV. And Ultimate Fighter, at the end of the day, what they want is to have, good TV.
I'd watch it. I would. I think that they're gonna have Izzy in there against the winner of the Cannonier Whittaker fight or against Jones. But let's actually, I think that's a good transition. Let's move right into UFC 254. It is a insane card. It is stacked top to bottom. It did lose those two fights we mentioned earlier, those two Dagestani and Nurmagomedov and Makhachev. However, we do have another Nurmagomedov, the one that matters most. We have Khabib Nurmagomedov headlining this card.
Feelings.
Fighting against, I don't know what you just said, but I will keep going because I'm too hyped to listen. Because we have Khabib, we have Justin Gaethje. They are taking on each other in this weekend's main event, UFC 254. And Khabib is trying to become 29-0. We will see who the 30-0 fighter is if he goes and actually wins this fight. It is, I think, one of the most interesting stylistic matchups for Khabib because he has fought amazing strikers before, but he has not fought a striker with this much power and this level of takedown defense in Justin Gaethje. And that's what everyone's talking about. Two things. Can Justin Gaethje keep it on the feet? And if he does, can he catch Khabib? Because he has insane one-shot knockout power. What do you guys see happening in this fight? What are you guys looking out for the most, other than the obvious that I kind of mentioned there?
Well, I think you go first.
Oh, I was going to say the obvious. This is going to look no different than any other Khabib fight I've seen in my entire life. That's my prediction.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping too.
I'm not hoping for it, but I know that it's going to happen.
That's what I foresee happening. I think a lot of people are in agreement that this is for sure his toughest matchup. But just like the record speaks for itself, his performance speaks for itself. I don't see it going any other way. To be perfectly honest, I would like to be surprised and just see Gaethje, manhandle him, but I doubt it.
Yeah, I mean, I do foresee it happening. I think we'll know after the first round, right? We're going to see in that first round how Gaethje handles the wrestling. I actually think he's going to be able to handle it a little bit at the beginning. I think he's going to be able to keep it up a little bit for the first few times. But the thing about Khabib is that he doesn't need to go and hit 100% takedowns. He doesn't need to take you down every single time he tries, because the thing about Khabib is that he's going to keep on trying. And eventually he'll get that takedown. And when he does, you're on the ground for the rest of the round.
Mm-hmm.
The question is really, I guess, how is Gaethje able to handle that? But also, is he able to keep himself, and especially early on, from gassing out too hard and keep himself competitive? Khabib's not going to hide. He's not going to do anything different than he's always done. He's going to just come in, disguise his takedowns with the striking, disguise his striking with the takedowns, move it eventually, grind him against the fence, take him down, tie up the legs, the same thing he always tries to do. I just don't know what Gaethje's going to be able to do to stop it. It's really interesting. I think he's going to have to work those uppercuts. He has good uppercuts, which is a really good strength for him. He has a really, really strong base. He's a wrestling defense guy. That's what he does, right? He stays on his feet and he stops being taken down, and he outworks the other guy mentally. He's a grinder, and that's what you need to be against Khabib. You cannot be the first to give up. I think we're going to see Gaethje gas out first, but I think we're going to see that mentality of Gaethje. Gaethje is up at the Tony level of just, there is no way to make this guy stop moving. We saw when Tony was basically out against Gaethje, he's still moving forward.
Yep.
Gaethje knows that he will not break. There is no way to break this man. And that is what's going to be interesting against Khabib. And if we see Khabib cut, I think here's the one thing that I think is really interesting about this fight. And Gaethje actually brought this up in a couple interviews. He said that Khabib's goal in there is to have a life in the future. Khabib wants to grow up. Khabib wants a quality of life. Khabib wants to coach. He wants to be with his family. He wants all these things. And Gaethje said, "This is fucking stupid, but I don't give a shit about that. When I go in there, I don't think about the next day. For me, life does not exist after October 24th. It does not exist. There is no life after October 24th. So he doesn't care if he's hurt. He is willing to go and give everything. And when you start to get into those grimy situations that we haven't seen Khabib get in, how will Khabib react? How much of himself, how big of a piece is he willing to leave of himself in there for the legend, for the glory, for the memory of his father, for everything that he stands for, right? How much of a piece of himself is he willing to give up in order to earn that? And we'll see if Gaethje can drag it into waters where we see that question answered.
Or it'll go like every other Khabib fight ever has.
Or it'll be a Barbosa Khabib where he just takes him down, grinds him out as always. We'll see.
Yeah.
All right. So final predictions. I'm assuming we're all gonna. I can't not go Khabib.
No, how could you?
All right,
can't.
all right,
You
all right.
can't.
All right. Let's say.
You'd be stupid too.
Okay. If you were to go Gaethje, how would you say pick the round or the decision, and pick either decision score or pick the round that he will knock out or submit Khabib?
I have a feeling out before the second or third.
I have a feeling third round knockout is coming.
I don't think
I'm gonna say if Gaethje took it, it's gonna be a weird third round leg TKO.
Leg TKO. Oh shit!
What a way to end the Khabib
Can you
era.
Imagine
leg TKO. What a shameful way to go down.
All
Maybe.
right. And you said
I think
second.
we all agree third round though. Yeah.
Third round or fourth round, I can see as well. All right. Let's go on to our co-main event. Another huge fight. Rovert Whittaker taking on Jared Cannonier. This is another number one contenders bout. The winner, as we mentioned earlier, is most likely, unless John Jones finds a way to sneak his way into the picture, or Jan Blachowicz, by the way, which is also being discussed, but we can talk about that another time. Will fight Israel Adesanya, or at the very least, I can guarantee the winner of this fight will be the next 185-pound. We'll have the next title fight at 185, whether it's against Adesanya or against someone else for an interim fight. This will be the next 185-pound title contender. So, Whittaker is coming off that big win over Darren Till. This is coming off that knockout loss against Adesanya. He looked quite good against Till. He looked composed. He looked like he fixed a lot of those rushing kind of thoughtless attacks that he had against Adesanya. And he managed to squeak out a win. He has some power still. He's able to drop Till at one point. His blitzes are getting back on point. If he's able to beat Cannonier, I think he actually might be back to a Whittaker that can put up a competitive fight against Adesanya. Maybe not win it, but compete with Adesanya. Cannonier, on the other hand, this is the man who started off at heavyweight, moved down to light heavyweight, moved down to middleweight, but has carried that explosive power that he had at heavyweight down to middleweight. So you have a 185er with a heavyweight power, with heavyweight speed. He has ridiculous leg kicks that he beat Anderson. He knocked out Anderson Silva with leg kicks. He has great. He has good wrestling. He might not have Whittaker wrestling, but he has good wrestling. He's just a dark horse. We don't know how he's going to fare against a ridiculously top level guy in Whittaker, but he got a big knockout win over Jack Hermanson. So this is a big, competitive, fun fight that we're going to see in our co-main event on Saturday night. Who do you guys call for Cannonier against Whittaker, and what do you think are going to be some of the X factors to watch out for?
I think I've said this before on the podcast, but I'm biased. Like, I like Whittaker way too much. I feel like he's going to win. To be perfectly honest, it's not that I doubt Cannonier's abilities, but I just haven't seen him fight frequently enough at 185. I mean, his biggest competitor was Jack Hermanson, and, Whittaker's fought a number of people that have been in that top five in the last, 2.5 years or so. So I think his resume sort of speaks for my opinion that that's why I think he would take the fight. But it's not me doubting Jared's abilities, but I just want to see more of him.
I think I'm going to give it to Cannonier on this one. I think that Whittaker is not the same fighter that he once was. I mean, I think that against Till, some of his, as you said, his rushing tendencies were, not as not there as frequently as they were, say, in the Adesanya fight. But I don't know. He's just, maybe I'm biased because I don't see Whittaker. I absolutely don't see him beating an Adesanya. Maybe I'm biased against him, so I don't want to see him get that fight because I feel that's a foregone conclusion, and Cannonier's not. I don't know. This one's tough to call. I guess I'm gonna say Cannonier. I don't know. That'll be my prediction.
Yeah, I think this is the pick'em fight for me. I think it is even odds in my head. I can see either guy winning this. I don't know how good Cannonier is yet. I think he's really he's obviously very, very good. I just don't know how he's going to fare against a guy like Whittaker. I'm going to lean Cannonier, if I'm being honest. I have a feeling he's going to do something. I have a feeling, I don't know why, I have a feeling an uppercut is going to hit. Cannonier is going to get.
Have you been talking to the Rocks?
I think I've been talking to the Rocks. I think the Rocks have been telling me.
When you say that, it really sounds like you're talking about smoking crack. Hold on. I gotta talk to the Rocks. I gotta talk to the Rocks before I make my decision.
Oh my God. Brings out the lighter and everything. But I think, you never know. I think the aura that Cannonier gets off of his meditation with the crystals and the different healing powers, the different crystals that he likes. I think that might give him the edge. But no joke though. I think if it makes him feel all these things, it is a mental edge, which is sometimes all you need in fighting, right? Mental edge is really it. And Whittaker, we know, actually has had some days where he hasn't been fully mentally there, hasn't had the full love for the sport. So it's going to be interesting to see where he's at mentally, if he really wants this, especially because he's going on this big trip to Abu Dhabi. There's the Fight Island. He's been in quarantine. He's had to train under bad conditions. It's going to be a good test to see where Whittaker is at mentally. If he's able to win this and win it under these mentally stressful conditions, I think it'll help him. And I think it'll be something that is telling to us as to how he's going to show up in a potential rematch against Israel Adesanya.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. You know what, Adam? Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to sneak in quickly and say maybe Whittaker has a slight edge because he's already fought at Fight Island. You know, he fought against Aaron Till. Not that it should be extremely hard for a fighter to accustom themselves to it, but
it's an adjustment for sure. There's certainly an adjustment to make.
All right, so we all agreed on Khabib on the first one. That's an easy one, or theoretically it should be easy. We have one Whittaker and two Cannoniers on our second fight. Let's move on to our featured bout of the night. We have Alexander Volkov, the giant of that heavyweight division, making his next fight against Walt Harris. Walt Harris is coming off that loss, heartbreaking loss against Overeem just a few weeks ago, or just a couple months ago, when he was making that comeback after that very unfortunate circumstance, of course, with his daughter passing away. So now he's coming back, his first fight back against Volkov. Volkov is coming off that win over Greg Hardy, and that's following his loss to, of course, Derek Lewis. So this fight is actually really interesting because we have a guy in Walt Harris who has the big knockout power like Derek Lewis, and has I think more explosiveness than Derek Lewis. He has a better ability to blitz. He has better movement. He's more agile than Derek. Maybe not quite the one-punch knockout, but he has a lot more agility. Volkov is a guy who knows how to use his reach. He has really good boxing fundamentals, really good boxing ability, but obviously has been known to be caught sometimes. And he didn't put on as dominant a performance as I thought he might have when he fought against Greg Hardy. Yes, thank you.
I think that can be pinned though also on just his general apprehensiveness, considering the manner with which he was beaten against Derek Lewis and the manner with which Greg Hardy has been beating guys. I think that you could chalk that up to a little bit of nervousness. I don't think I would say that that's a deficiency in Volkov's skill necessarily.
So is that you going for Volkov there?
No, not necessarily. Just an explanation as to why I don't know who I'm going to vote, who I'm going to predict in this fight, to be honest. But just a means of saying I don't know if last fight was a good representation of what Volkov is bringing to the table against a larger opponent.
Adam, who do you predict for this fight?
I'm leaning slightly towards Walt Harris. I'd say it's pretty like evenly matched considering their last few fights. Sort of like win some, lose some, but I don't know. Probably leaning Walt Harris.
I'm gonna split this. I'm gonna go Volkov. I think that Walt Harris gassed a little bit. Yes, he had, of course, that emotional dump. I think he charged in against Overeem, and I think that Volkov is good enough to be able to stay up with him, gas him out, maybe take him down, and grind him out. I think Volkov is going to be able to win this. I think his experience in boxing, his veteran ability is going to take over on this one. Noah. The deciding vote. The deciding vote is with Noah.
I just told you that I didn't know who I could predict for this one. It's a tough one.
You got a couple seconds.
I'm just going to say that I want Harris to win because he deserves to win. So that's what I'll give you. That's the best I'm going to give you.
I mean, you got to put in an official prediction to see who's right this week. I mean, the last 2 weeks, by the way.
Okay, all right, Mr. Official Prediction. Fine. Okay, if you really want the official prediction, I don't want him to win because I want Harris to get the win, but I do think that Volkov's going to get the win. You dragged it out of me. I want Harris to win, but I don't think he will.
All right, great. By the way, for the record, I just want to point out the last 2 weeks in a row we made predictions and for the main event. And I've been the only one that's been right either time.
I see how it is. The only correct predictions in here. Well, maybe I'll just take off and start a new podcast, the Losers Podcast, where we only talk about the losers like me, losers like Adam, not winners like Roe.
Yeah, I tried to make a podcast like that, but they said it didn't seem genuine. I didn't fit the character.
Oh my God, Roe. You should start an OnlyFans, and you could even pay for it yourself. You just pay for your own OnlyFans.
You're gonna eat your words when Gaethje third round leg TKOs Khabib.
Touche. Well, I know Noah. I think you're gonna. I want to hear your prediction on this, your breakdown on this. I know you've been talking about this fight for months actually. I know you have a really good breakdown for the Jacob Malkoun against Phil Hawes fight. That's the other main card fight. I want to hear what do you see happening in this fight? Who do you lean? What are some of the key components to look out in Phil Hawes' game versus Mr. Malkoun's?
Well, when you're looking at Phil Hogg, you always need to worry because a feral hog is a very dangerous beast. You might know that they're currently a big kind of outbreak of feral hogs in the United States. They're following them around in helicopters, having to fire rifles at them. So if his opponent has access to some kind of a flying vehicle and a rifle, I don't like the Hog's chance. But if we're talking in like an open field with no vehicles, maybe a little bit of high grass cover, I think Hogg takes.
What about in a cage?
In a cage, Hogg takes every time in the cage.
Yo, but the other guy's 4-0. Why is the guy 4-0? Wait, serious question. Jacob Malkoun is a 4-0 middleweight who has no picture on Google Images. Why is he fighting on the Khabib versus Gaethje pay-per-view main card?
Do you think that do you know that show like The Masked Singer where they like get someone to wear a whole costume and then
it's GSP.
It's GSP. It's the whole time. He's going to come in with the classic GSP gi. He's going to have like a Shogun mask on, looking like fucking Yoshimitsu and Tekken.
He's gonna come out after the fight. He's gonna take his mask. He's gonna come out after the fight as Jacob Malkoun, take off the mask, be GSP, push Khabib. Khabib will come out and be like, "Hey brother, push me now, get smashed later."
Amazing. I think it'll be a masked fighter doing a UFC 1 style fighting 12 guys in a row.
That was a DC Brock Lesnar Khabib mix throwback. Come on, give me some respect. Put some respect on my name here. Roe,
as the host of the Winner podcast, I respect you.
Thank you. Wincast. All right. So I don't have much to say about Phil Hawes, Jacob Malkoun. I don't have anything to say, to be honest, about Lauren Murphy, Cynthia Calvillo. Even though those are pretty decent fighters, I don't, to be honest, have a lot to say about that fight. The fight I don't know if you guys do. The fight I want to talk about, the last one that I want to talk about, is one that has happened before, and that should have happened the second time on at least 5 different occasions, and is booked once again. And Iwan Kutalaba against Magomed Ankalaev. Once again, this is the fight that was, I think it happened on Izzy Romero card, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think so.
Mm-hmm.
Magomed caught Kutalaba with a punch. Kutalaba faked like he was hurt. Tries to bait Ankalaev in. Ref thinks he's actually hurt and stops the fight. Iwan goes and complains, of course, and they try to rebook the fight. It was pulled off once because of the whole COVID shutdown. Then another time, the one guy got COVID, then another guy got COVID, and then this happened, and this happened. It has been booked so many times. This is a fireworks fight. This is a perfect way to kick off the main card because they like to put these fun fights that someone's going to get knocked out, someone's going to go, and everyone's going to go hard. It's going to be just fireworks left, right, and center, and I'm excited for this fight. I would say this is the other fight we should make predictions on. So I'm going to go Magomed. I think he's just better. I think he's more composed. I think he has just better fundamentals. So I'm going to say Magomed on this fight. Anyone want to disagree with me?
No. No, I'm going to go Magomed as well.
Yeah, don't know enough in either way which direction to make. So I'll go. Is it Ian? Is it Ian? I think
Eon.
Eon, because I've seen Ian spelled like that and pronounced Ian. Okay, so
he's Greek, I believe.
I'm gonna be a good sport. I'm gonna be a good sport and go contrary to you fellas.
All right. Okay. Well, then that's good. That means that we all have different predictions on some level, and we can see who's right this week. We can see if you guys can break my 2-fight winning streak.
Your 2-fight winning streak.
2-fight winning streak, boys.
I don't
Tony
like
Ferguson, get at me.
You're wording that.
My 2-fight prediction streak. Better?
More accurate.
More accurate. Okay. Everyone
walking around like who's that boxing guy who walks around and says he has like 1,000 wins and he like sucker punched Floyd Mayweather Sr.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I hate that guy. Bag. Arthur is something. I forget the guy's name.
Something. His last name's got like a Z.
Zed.
Like
Zelensky.
Zelenoff.
Oh yeah,
Zelenoff. Charlie Zelenoff.
Yeah, so that's you walking around talking about your win streak.
I'll have you
know. Shout out to Charlie Zelenoff. Everyone look up his videos. They're fucking dumb.
Yeah, they're pretty bad. But the Deontay Wilder taking him out was a great video. Deontay Wilder's like, "You talking about my daughter? Are you kidding me? You almost killed him."
That was amazing. That was a great video. That was a great moment. I'm gonna watch that as soon as we're done with this.
So even for a troll, you gotta admit that you do have to have a little bit of respect for having the balls to go over and talk shit to Deontay Wilder to his face. The number of people who talk shit on Twitter, all those Twitter fingers, to have the balls to actually go up to a guy, to a Deontay Wilder and talk shit. Yes, he's a piece of garbage for the things he's saying, but damn, the man has some mental disability to have the balls to do that shit.
Oh, I think he probably most likely does, at least from the blows to the head he's taken. Yeah, but remember earlier you said it's like Conor taking on Poirier. It shows that he's got a good mindset. Well, this is an example of when having a bad mindset gets you into a fight with a very dangerous person.
That is
go
true.
The opposite direction as well.
All right, I have one more fight I actually want to mention. That is the headliner of the prelims. And we have a oldie. We've got the towering, the skyscraper. We've got Stefan Struve taking on Tai Tuivasa in the prelim headliners. That's a fun fight. Tuivasa is going to go for the knockout. Struve, of course, is going to obviously also go for the knockout, but he's going to keep the distance with his height.
On him.
Going to try to stomp on. Tuivasa is not a tall guy either. He's a short heavyweight. Stefan is obviously a skyscraper. This is actually a really interesting fight. We'll see if Struve's chin can hold up because Tuivasa throws hard, but Tuivasa's got no technique. He is messy. He is scrappy. It'll be a fun fight.
There's a universe where Struve is like a championship title holder who defends his belt many times because he can effectively use his height and reach. There's a world where that exists, and
there's a universe.
I don't know how many years he's got left to hit that point, but I'd like to see it because he's just I mean, God, imagine marketing that guy as the heavyweight champion. He's a tower. He doesn't even need to say anything. You just look at him and you know you want to watch him.
And Ngannou as well.
You guys ever see whenever I see Struve like throw a punch or something, it almost feels like he's moving in slow motion. I know it's hitting hard, like hard as fuck, and would annihilate me across a room, but it looks so slow and sluggish. It look like if I'm at the receiving end, I'm sure it feels like it's coming at me as fast as any punch. But it really looks like he's moving in slow motion sometimes just because of the size.
Yeah, I know. And I honestly don't know who to pick for this fight. Because both these guys are sloppy. Neither of these guys are really that technical, that good. It's going to be a weird fight. It might be really fun. It might be just gross. I don't know which one to expect.
I'm going for my short king. Got to go for the short kings.
Got to go for the short king. I do want Tai to win. I actually am leaning Tai Tuivasa. But Struve can easily
Tai the one who did the shoe? Is he the one who did the shoe?
He's the shoey king.
He's a shoey king.
He's a tough bastard. He's going to take it.
All right. Anything else to add into this week? I mean, this is a hype card next week. We didn't talk about it that much. We spoke about it more than we usually do, to be fair. But I mean, this is a crazy card. I hope you are all watching. It's actually a 2:00 start on the main event. It'll probably be like a 10 a.m. start or something on the prelims. So
really,
it's going to be a early day. It'll be a fun afternoon.
Get your Baileys, get your coffee, get ready to go. It's going to be a good morning.
And who knows, maybe I'll do a post-fight live reaction. We'll see how I feel that day. Anyways, I hope you guys have a fantastic week. Get hyped for this fight next week. Keep an eye out for all those interviews, for all those videos. I'm sure the countdown is up or will be up any minute now, any day now. And we will see you guys next week in another fantastic episode of this Smeshcast. And one last thing, of course, remember, leave a like, comment on the video, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and we'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.